All right, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Gavin Reshaw Presents. Hope everybody is doing great, doing well. Um, Beautiful Wednesday here in New Orleans. I don't know how everyone else has been. If you're affected by Tropical Storm Gordon, if you're on the Gulf Coast, and I hope you all are safe. But really, we didn't get anything tonight, yet last night or this morning. Nothing happened, but schools were closed, but it was business as usual here. So I had some work I was doing. So hope everybody is good and safe. You'll probably see this video later on. I know a lot of people are busy. Thank you to the new subscribers, those that have subscribed to the video, that have sent positive messages. Thank you. Keep coming back, and I enjoyed conversation, giving my thoughts, and I hear your opinions, and some of you may disagree with me, and that's fine, but I actually keep it respectful, and the rest of you fucking trolls, excuse my language, but people that don't like what I say, you bastards can kick rocks. This is my page. I don't tell you what to say. And I've actually had people on my last page, on my last video, excuse me. I'm trying to watch my language too. But I had people that were, mad or upset with me for telling things how I see it. Everybody is not going to see things, and I'm going to get to the recap on the Aretha Franklin funeral, but everybody's not going to agree with everything you say. That's part of living in America and part of living in a diverse nation, and not just in America, but around the world. Everybody doesn't see things how you're going to see it. And that's fine. That's okay. You need to have diversity. We all are not going to see things differently. And we're all going to see things differently. We're not all the same. We're not supposed to be. When people say America should be like, try and be like other nations, it's not supposed to be like every damn nation. It's supposed to be what it is, the United States of America. Same thing with France. France is supposed to be France. Now, you know, Kenya like Kenya. Everybody is different. Everybody gets to rule themselves. There's sovereignty, and everybody has a right to their opinion. Now, to get into what happened with my video I did a couple of days ago. I want to get into that. And I talked about Pastor Jasper Williams' eulogy that he did for Aretha Franklin, my thoughts on it, how I thought it was, offensive. I didn't like what was said. I thought the guy was cooning. Now, I want to be clear, when I was critiquing the funeral, and you have a right to critique. Now, I wasn't critiquing necessarily, Aretha Franklin's children, her grandchildren. Those are babies. They lost their grandmother. And I wasn't disrespecting Aretha, but I can critique what was said. We can talk about what was done, what was said. We can talk about what we saw, who sang, what we witnessed, because they opened that to the public. Now, personally speaking, getting back to the Reverend's comments, and I stand by what I said, but I want to clarify what I was saying, and I also want to clarify, what I did earlier, what I just spoke with about talking about Sister Aretha Franklin's funeral, and again, it's not about being disrespectful to her, and I was not disrespectful to her, but we can critique what was said and done. So what I looked at, basically, and this is my more thoughts on it, is that this funeral has become, it was basically a circus. You know, as I said earlier in my last video, I said it was Kunapalooza. Why did I say that? It was because people were there, instead of focusing on the departed, which was Aretha Franklin, people came there to push their own agendas. The pastor included, Michael Eric Dyson to a large degree. You had Bill Clinton up there. Everything, of course, they were pushing, even Jesse Jackson, and I know Jesse is sick, but they talked about voting and, tying things with the Democratic Party and how I don't like Trump. And whether you like Donald Trump or not, the bottom line is he is the president, and I don't like him personally, but, we all, regardless of who the president is, that's not going to make a difference in black people's lives. Black people have had Democratic presidents who claim to be for us. We had a black president that, was a black president we thought was for us, but his agenda was obviously to push a white supremacist agenda. And he certainly did not push a black agenda, in large part because we did not fight for a black agenda. We did not ask anything of the president. We just told him he could be black, and that's all he needed to do. We didn't ask for specifically for things, although some things he should be known because he claims to have experienced discrimination. When he talks about, I'll never forget, while he was running for president, he talked about having a grandmother that was racist, that was a deep Southerner, had that mentality. You know, he grew up around that, and although he heard things like that, he also grew up mostly around white people. Now, I'm not making this about Barack Obama, and he wasn't at Aretha Franklin's funeral. He could have been there, yeah, just like he went to John McCain, and I believe Bill Clinton. The Clintons went to John McCain's funeral right after that. But I'm not making it about him. It is what it is. But I want to get back to comments that Jasper Williams made. Now, what Brother Dr. Boyce Watkins was talking about today, I saw his video from yesterday. He praised Jasper Williams, and shout out to Boyce. I have respect for him, Boyce, but I did disagree to a certain extent to what Boyce was talking about in regards to the timing of this all. Jasper Williams, shout out to everybody in the chat room. You can make some noise, tell me you're there, tell me who you are, I'll shout you out. When Boyce talked about the comments, he defended the comments because he was stating that, essentially what Williams was talking about was not wrong. We need to take back our communities. We can't depend on a white man to represent us. And he talked about how he even deals with it with young black boys who have black mothers and just being raised by black mothers. When they get to be older and bigger, obviously, when they're in that adolescent age, a young boy, obviously, he knows he's bigger and stronger than his mother. So is he going to necessarily respect his mother? No. But what he would respect and what he would fear is another man who is stronger than him, an alpha male, basically. And that is true to a large degree. It is true what Williams was talking about, that, black lives won't matter until black lives matter to everyone else, to us first and foremost. We do have to love each other. We do have to support our businesses. He talked about the black businesses that we had during the 60s and 50s, where during segregation, what's up, J-Dog? 8807, how you doing? During the 50s and 60s, yes, black people had their own businesses. They had their own post offices. They had their own hospitals, their law offices. You had black businessmen, entrepreneurs, airports. You had train stations. You had, look at Black Wall Street. You had banks. You had financial institutions. You had schools where all black people were, I guess, getting along, and they supported one another. And we don't support each other today. That's correct. But was it the right time for him to say that at someone's funeral, when you got 50 minutes, which he had, and he rambled and critiqued and threw it at young black men about what they were doing, how we're not doing this, why we have all of this crime? Was it appropriate? You have to look at that. You have obviously at Aretha Franklin's funeral, you knew, and I saw the family, they critiqued this pastor. They said he found it disgusting. Distasteful. That was the exact word that Vaughn Franklin, speaking through a representative, Vaughn was Aretha's nephew. And by the way, when he talked about the single black mother, who was Aretha Franklin? She was a self-described what? A single black mother. She had kids at a young age. Now, how she got those children, Because if you saw even the son who spoke at the funeral, who sang at the funeral, he damn near was old, in his 60s. I mean, he was old and gray. So Aretha had kids when she was basically a baby, a child herself, and she had the help of her friends and family who raised the kids while she was out singing for her father, making a living. How did that look, having the daughter of a pastor, you know, with children before she was 15 and before she was even married? Obviously, it wasn't a good look, but I've heard things about, that pastor, C.L. Franklin, and that church. I saw Tariq Nasheed's video, shout out to him, about how they used to have orgies there. I mean, I don't know anything about that. I did read the article on the Daily Mail where Ray Charles made references to it, Billy Preston, and I don't know. And I saw it was in an unauthorized biography on Aretha Franklin that David Ritz did. How she was a sex addict and she was into food and so forth. And, I don't know anything about that. God rest her dead. I don't want to speak ill of Aretha, but it may have been true. But nevertheless, what can we do about it? That's a different time and era, you know. But getting back to what we're discussing, was it all appropriate for this pastor to even be talking about this, bringing this up? I don't think so. Was it right? Was some of the things he said agreeable? That I think we can be concerned about black responsibility and things we see in our communities. Yeah, we should be. We have to be the ones to fix everything. But there's a time and place when you say that. And to say that at her funeral, while she's there, especially when you talk about the single black mother, you're disrespecting Aretha Franklin and her children while they're sitting there, because you're essentially talking about them when you say that they can't raise a man. Women can't raise a man. You were saying that, so basically what you're saying is that Aretha Franklin's boys are not boys at all. They're girls, or they're nothing. That's the way a lot of people felt and took it. Now, maybe if he had said it at another time and place, like I said, it would have been a different venue, but it would have been probably gotten over. But you know what? He said it there, and in all fairness, it's not his fault entirely, because the family should have looked at what he was going to say or talked to him about it. They picked this man, so they picked him. They, I'm sure, had an idea of who he and what he was, what he was about and talked to, but he certainly was pushing an agenda. And in all fairness to him, also, a lot of other people's agendas were being pushed. And this is what I agree with Dr. Boyce Watkins about. He talked about, you had people up there who shouldn't have been there or probably weren't there, like Ariana Grande that came there dressed like she was going to the club, and trying to sing, while girls like Jennifer Hudson and Fantasia and Jennifer Holliday, they sang. Shaka Khan sang. It was almost like, what are you doing here? Which is what a lot of people, they're saying, because they weren't that impressed with her performance. But, that's neither here nor there. And then you had this scandal about him grabbing her boobs or breast, and, which, I think that's being blown out of proportion, really, with this whole Me Too movement that's going on. I don't think he consciously said, I'm going to grab titty, but I didn't see it. I thought he was just holding her because she was so small. But I'm getting off track, about that. She, I just think that it's just getting out of hand. But no, I wanted to talk about and clarify my comments about Aretha, the funeral. It became, like I said again in closing, it was a circus. The length of time it took to go on, the pushing of agendas that was there, the things that were talked about, And I hope this with Jasper Williams, if he's serious, and I don't know what exactly he does in his community in Atlanta, but maybe if people who are from Atlanta know anything more about him, let me know. Rick Snyder was there. That was another thing, too. The governor of, I didn't mention this in my last video, the governor of Michigan I believe is Rick Snyder, and he has this issue with all the water crisis going on in Flint, Michigan. What was he doing there? Look how they treated the people there in Flint. And Sister Aretha, and this is something that the pastor could have brought up. He could have mentioned her charitable work that she did. And he did briefly touch on it, but he used it more to talk down on the young black generation. Now, a lot of people, young people, I can tell you, being a young black man in America, and I've talked to friends about this, part of the reason why a lot of kids are not in church anymore is because some of these old heads that are in church talk down to the youth about what they can and can't do. And that's why their asses are not sitting in pews and tithing and giving money. You know, we got people that are poor, dirt poor, that will give hundreds of dollars to church. And those churches won't, and I'm not saying anything is wrong with it, because I believe in God myself. I believe in the church. But you know, they also say faith without works is dead. And if we want to be changed, and you truly mean that, Pastor Williams, then be about it and do work in the community. If you are doing it, if you do, salute to you. But don't just critique young black people, young black men in particular, about what they can and can't do, or they're not doing, and you're not being part of the solution. Giving your money is fine. That's fine if you do that. I don't know if you work with kids who are in gangs and so forth, and you try and get them out. Great. You know, as an attorney, I have worked in the private sector. I've represented people for free of my service, pro bono cases, as we call it. I've had people who have been accused of some heinous crimes, and I've represented kids in juvenile court. But I did not want those kids to be part of the system. So, yes, I offered free help, free consolation to keep them out. So, you know, if you're doing things to help the community, great. But let's also critique this racist system we live in. You know, and that's the big crux of it. You know, what's the solution? We know what the problem is. Yeah, the problem is racism. And yes, we got to be the ones to fix our community. We can't depend on anybody to help us. And, you know, this is another thing I agreed with Brother Boyce Watkins on. We, black people, do tend to be conservative. And I find the Democratic agenda, especially the far left agenda, in a large degree, it sickens me with some things that they do. You know, I'm not 100% aligned with the Democratic Party, even though I'm registered with them, but there are things they do I despise. Just like Republicans. Main reason why black people won't vote Republicans because the Republicans ignore them. But we couldn't put an agenda up or a super PAC with and hold out and on voting. I'm not saying black people shouldn't be registered to vote. Obviously, you want to be registered to vote. You want to vote locally. You affect more change locally because it's more local government that affects you more than federal at this point. And really in any life, because you know, ordinances that are passed at the state and local governments, those are what affect you the most. But it is important to be registered. But we can also choose not to vote. You have the right to vote, but you can also, and that right means also the right not to exercise it. And you could do something and hold it until both parties come to you. You use it basically as a bargaining chip till they come to you so they can hear what your agenda is. And when they lay it out on the table, you lay it out on the table to them, what you want, what we need, then we'll go say, okay, we can back you up. But make sure it's an agreement. So, again, and finally, I want to also mention this. When I talked about Minister Farrakhan not being allowed to speak, it's growing and growing. I talked about that. People are asking why he didn't speak. I spoke with Michael Himotep. Now, those that don't know who he is, Michael Himotep hosts the African History channel that you may see on Facebook and YouTube. He also has a show, I believe, on Sundays evenings. I don't know exactly the channel name. I apologize, but you can Google his name, Michael Himotep, his Facebook page, the African History Network, I believe. And we talked about it, and we talked about the funeral. And he, he felt that the pastor went too far, although he agreed with some of the points he made. We should accept responsibility, but was this the time and place? Now, he said the reason why Farrakhan didn't speak was because he was not on the program. So whoever did the program, which I'm assuming is the family, although I believe there was a program producer for the funeral that I saw on Entertainment Tonight. I'm sure he had a hand in that as well. I don't know 100% who talked to who, but the program also stated the funeral was going to end at 3 o'clock, and it went on to almost 7 o'clock. It was late in the evening when the funeral stopped. You know, from the time people walked into church and were being greeted by Minister Farrakhan and Al Sharpton and Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and President Clinton, and everyone else. It went on for a while, and from the time Aretha was buried, it was past 7. I would have been hungry in that church, to be honest. But yeah, guys, but that may have been the reason why he didn't speak. But somebody really should have. It was embarrassing to me in the optics that it didn't look good that the minister didn't speak. And I believe he would have given a hell of a better sermon or eulogy, because that was really a sermon. That wasn't a eulogy for Aretha Franklin, than Jasper Williams did. And I just don't think it was the right time for him to do that. And Minister Farrakhan, very interesting, he will critique black people for what they do, but he's also put in the work. He has sat down with gangsters. He has here in New Orleans with the Nation of Islam down here. They have the Peacekeepers movement that they work with kids who are killing each other. They try to squash the beef. That's one of their projects that they have. Squashing the beef, mediating between these gangsters so that we can end the bloodshed that's going on in the community. Because we don't want to even see our kids, let's be honest, we don't like seeing kids go to jail. But that's the route that they're going. That's the point. That's the route that they're headed. When you get tied up with drugs and you get tied up with, you're desperate, you're tied up with robbery, and hanging out with the wrong crowd, kids are headed down the wrong path. So, Minister Farrakhan, he'll critique young black men. I've seen him do it, but he's also going to critique white people for what they've done and their racism. So, I just wanted to recap and clarify what I said. It was not, my comments are not to be interpreted as an insult to Miss Franklin or her family. And people that don't like it, well, you can go to your YouTube channel and talk about what you don't like about my video or anything else. You don't even have to mention me. I probably wouldn't even watch the shit. Excuse my expression, but this is my page. Any trolls that are on here, y'all can kick rocks. If you disagree with my comment or my views in this video, that's fine. I accept that. Like I said, we all don't think alike. We're not created the same. But be respectful. And if you do like it, even better. Like the page, subscribe to my channel. I thank everybody in the chat room right now. Let's see. J-Dog, you still there? See 2 people there. If you're in the chat room, say something. So, anyway, guys, I wanted to be brief. So, I wasn't too brief. I was over 20 minutes, but that's all I got for today. So, you guys be safe, be blessed. And subscribe if you got any comments. But, I just feel I said what I said. I just feel that this now has become, this was a political event now that they're pushing. Too many agendas are being pushed at Aretha Franklin's funeral. And it was a shame. Something beautiful like that is turning into a scandal. All of the performances now are highlighted by, shock and awe and scandal about who did what and what was said. So, that's it for me. You guys take care. Be blessed.